Welcome to Thought Experiment Called Life. This is where unconventional thinkers and multi-passionate makers share their journey of creating meaningful lives, built on growth, creativity, and the courage to live on their own terms. I'm Greta, a musician, a martial artist, an herbalist, and a fellow traveler through this mystery we call life. Every other Tuesday, I bring you real conversations with rule breakers and path forgers. Subscribe on Substack for more resources, mindset, tools, and more. I am so excited to have you here, Sally. I honestly, from the moment I started this podcast, I was like, I have to have Sally on, but I wanted to wait a little bit to kind of like get things moving before we had our conversation, because I'm sure we'll do this more than once. But yeah, I'm just so excited to have you on. Obviously, you and I have known each other for 15, 20, somewhere in there years.
Time.
Let's say many lifetimes. There have been many lives that have happened within the time period, I feel like. Many chapters and books. I just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
I
for
can't wait to
having me.
I can't wait to just chat about all the things.
I'm still working on the same things that I've always been working on when it comes to energetics and teaching and leading. It's like really I really feel like I'm in my Dharma work when I'm doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
So teaching, training in all levels of Reiki, which I really, really love doing. You know, since the pandemic, Reiki's been like a little bit more mainstream. We're talking about energetics and energetic health more than ever before, where back in the day, as I know you know, my Reiki sister, it was a hard sell. You had to kind of go high and low to find Reiki practitioners. And we were kind of placed in the woo box, which was fun, you know, like we loved the woo box, but I really feel like now we're in a different space. It's just, you know, we're talking about energetic living. Like we're particles of energy. We have to talk about energetic living. Energetic living is everything, you know? So I feel really passionate about teaching and training in Reiki, seeing private clients, running lots of courses. I have a really, really great community called the Soul Space Portal of just incredible women from like all over that I'm just like, I really love leading women. I feel very passionate about leading women and giving women a safe place to come where they can be themselves and they can talk about what they're moving through, not bitch circles. We don't do that. Instead, we lift each other up and we try our best to live a soul-based lifestyle is what I like to call it all the time. And it's just like kind of making sure that you're living in the heartbeat of life and not caught up in the noise of life. So the portal is a really wonderful platform for all of that. And other than that, I'm just doing my thing. I have a studio space here in South Jersey. We just run seasonal classes and I have some community classes happening. We just had a big solstice class, which was very nice. And I think that's about it.
Well, I mean, you say South Jersey. I think for people who don't know, Jersey and South Jersey and like the ocean, right? Like you are right on
I literally can hear the ocean if my sliding glass door was open, but it's cold now. So I live about 3 blocks from the beach and the bay is across the street. So I'm on an island. I'm surrounded by water and it's incredible. I love living at the beach. We moved here in 2019. Very serendipitous event brought us to be here. And it was a really wonderful place to be during the pandemic. Like really, really amazing when, you know, we were all kind of trapped. I actually felt really free. I was like on the beach every day, you know, walking. It was just like really wonderful time. But it feels really great to be around the elements, you know, to be surrounded by water, surrounded by the sand, the ground quartz. Feels really healing, feels really supportive for my lifestyle, for my work. And it's home. It's like the soul for my family, for my kids and I, like this is home. You know, we all live all over and everybody just kind of, we know that like this is where we come to the ocean's edge to be home. And it's a beautiful thing. I feel really lucky and blessed.
Chills, you know, because, you know, I think for anybody listening who does any kind of energetic work, right, or is deep in their practice and their path, having that sanctuary and connection to nature is something I obviously talk about nonstop. We moved so that we could be closer to the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny with my sister, she's close to the ocean.
And I think that, we all are working in that space. And I would just sort of like offer to anybody who's listening who's going like, feeling that call, right? And also really maybe going through it. Prioritize your
Right.
relationship with nature, prioritize your ability and time to spend with nature. And it doesn't always mean go move to the mountains or go live by the ocean. I found that relationship with a tiny little park that I happened to grow up going to, and I would just visit it all the time. And it
Yes.
became my church. It became where I could rest, I could release, I could connect, I could hear, I could pray, I could do all those things. And I always feel that every single one of your nature posts, every single one of your ocean
Mhm.
posts, I feel that is exactly what's happening. And I think when people allow themselves to make that a priority, it is so life-changing. I think it's
Oh my gosh. You just have to find your nature. And I do believe that that changes and evolves with us over time. So like if the beach is your nature, then, in a few years you might find out that the mountains is your nature medicine, whatever that is. But it's so important. I am completely obsessed with watching the sunrise. Every single day. Now, I love the sunrise and the sunset, or I mean, like if I can get them both in on one day, then that's it.
yeah.
But the sunrise is really like the sweet spot. There is just something so magical about watching the sunrise, especially coming over the water, and the reflection of the light dancing on the water. It's just like I can absolutely not get enough of that. So I always wonder because I'm always posting my sunrises, and so it looks like, I'm like, when people are like, did you do anything else? Not
Do it.
really.
It's like me. I think I always take a picture straight into the sun whenever we're out in the woods. It's like at some point there's pine trees and the sun's coming through, and I'm like, this is it. Like that is my favorite. That's like all I wanted. Really, when I moved here for like at first, I was like, I just want to see that like all the time. There was one spot at the park that I used to go to where that would happen. And they were old Christmas trees, actually, is where we used to cut our Christmas trees down when we were little. So all the trees grew, and it was just one little lot at this park. And I would just pretend that I was like in a massive forest, where like
Yeah.
see it everywhere. So yeah, I do. Like, is
Mhm.
she always in the woods? We are
Always looking for the light. Always,
always.
always.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, so we were talking a little bit about kind of like my intention for this podcast and like why, right? Why? So I really, as I was telling you, love talking to people who look at the world differently, who have chosen a path that doesn't match what everyone else, maybe told you to do or culture tells us to do. And I say like the big S society, like is like, you should do these things or whatever. And, of course there's pieces of that that's just like being an adult, right? Or like paying your bills and like doing your things, right? But there's so much more to our lives beyond achievement, beyond all of those things that is really the meaning and connection that we build through no matter what is happening. And I find usually that people who live an unconventional life have
Right.
had that real experience where you had to, whether what you were pursuing, brought you to your knees and you had to decide, is this my path or not? Am I willing to go through or do I not want to do that? Which both are fine, like you'll know what you need to do. But I think, at least again, from what I've seen, is people who have been following that path tend to also create more meaning in their life. It's an invitation on all levels of our soul when we choose to do something differently. And you are such a shining example of that, So, I would love whatever you would want to share. If there's a time that stuck out to you where you really made the conscious decision to focus more on the quality of your life and less on the, again, the sort of standard achievements or like, I'm ticking off these notches, I'm getting to this place in life. But I know for me, I came to a place that I said, I had a realization that no matter where I got achievement wise, if I didn't tend to my heart, if I didn't really come back to myself, it didn't matter what I achieved. I wasn't going to feel it. I wasn't going to know it.
Right.
And I'm curious when that happened, if that, I'm assuming that happened because I know you very well. So, but, like when that happened, if there's a time that you would want to share about.
I mean, there's probably several times. I definitely have always lived kind of a slightly an alternative lifestyle, So I didn't really go to like traditional schooling out from high school. I went to hairdressing school. So I had like the most really unique, I was just sharing this story the other day. Like I was a shampoo girl in high school. And while I was in high school, like I grew up in a very traditional household, it's like Catholic, like everything, it was just like a very traditional kind of boring, not boring. My family's a lot of fun. So we're definitely not boring.
Right.
But we definitely the joke that I made the other day was like, let me just give you an example of the spices we had in our household. Salt and pepper. That was it. Salt and pepper. So by the time I got into like a scene with like artsy, creative people, I was blown away by the textures and the colors and the taste and the music and everything that was like so outside of my realm. And I feel like I was really blessed with that opportunity when I was 17, right out of high school, just started working full time in the salon. And I was working with like all different types of colorful people. It was a very colorful arena. I mean, there was like one of the girls I think was a stripper in Reading on the weekends. And it was like, oh, that's interesting. So you like cut hair and then you're like, oh, it was like, what's going on here? And because there were so many different types of people working there, I had so many different opportunities. I went to so many different concerts, went to lots of gay clubs and, doing all the things that I would have never got to experience if I wasn't in such an alternative lifestyle environment. It was also amazing. It was the 80s. I was a hairdresser in the 80s. I mean, come on, like cha-ching. It was like spiral perm. It was everything. So we were busy. We were grinding it out and we were making money and it was so much fun. Not that I had any idea what to do with money. Like I had no idea whatsoever, so I would just like go buy a new outfit every day. I was like, this is what you do when you have money. I don't know. What do you do with this stuff? You know? But at one of my business meetings, my bosses had a shaman come in. I didn't know what a shaman was. I'd never heard of that in my life. And so we're all sitting on the floor of the hair salon, which I thought was weird because floors in the hair salon, So we're sitting on the floor and he's in the center of the room. He's burning something. I'm like, what is this? What is happening here? And he's burning sage and everybody's going around and we're sharing and then we do a meditation. And it was just like so incredible to experience something so opening, and it was life-changing for me. That was a big, big life-changing moment in my life, was kind of being exposed to so much that was so different than my upbringing. And then from there, it was kind of like I got married really young. I was super young. And just going from that into this like, other dimension of like having children and being a really young mom and like building your life. And like, then it's like, get the big house in the burbs. And like, I found myself kind of moving into a whole different era that it was transformative in ways that motherhood is transformative in ways that you could never, ever, ever, ever even understand. Neighborhood, like all the moms get together and all the kids play, like that was really hard for me. I was like a different kind of mom. We were having dance parties and we were free. We would just go do whatever we want. I loved that. And so that type of rigidness, like really, it got me it was a different place. Let's just say that. I was really fortunate to have like a really great neighbor across the street. We were super close and we could get together all the time and like talk about, how like everybody else is freaking crazy, helicopter parents. But really, I always talk about like that time was really, I loved being a mom. I think like no matter what I do, like doing hair was like a wonderful thing. And I continued to do hair while I was raising my kids. I always had a little salon Sally in my house where I could continue to make my own money while, taking care of the kids. But really the greatest job I've ever is being mom. I'm still mom. My kids are in their 20s now, late 20s. But for me, raising them is just like the greatest experience ever. I can distinctly remember when I closed my eyes, like folding little laundry and saying to myself, I will never forget this moment. Like, I will never forget this. And it's so true. Like, nothing will ever, they are my greatest achievement. Period. Period, period, period. But, as kids start to find their own life and get into middle school and sports and things like that, moms find themselves, or at least me, found myself at this point of like, well, there's got to be more for me. So I had this moment where I was at the playground with the kids and I was with all the big mom group people, which I just loved. Everybody's talking about everybody else because that's what all those suburban moms did, which was so annoying. But everybody's talking and talking. There's a lot of noise and the kids are playing. And I hear, Mom, Mom, and it's Kira. And I'm like looking around and it was like this weird moment. And she's continuing to call me. She's probably like, hello. And I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, I'm the only mom to these people. Like I'm Sally to the rest of the world. Like, but I'm only mom to these three humans. And it was like a moment that might not make sense to anyone listening to this. But for me, it was very, very eye-opening because, at that time period, a lot of people you really identified yourself with being like that stay-at-home mom and like taking that like, way too seriously. I mean, it's a very serious job. It's a beautiful job. I did it and I loved it. But I was only mom to those three people and realizing I was Sally was like, wow. And it was such a moment that like triggered and changed everything for me, like getting back into yoga and getting back into creative practices for myself because they were moving along. So I had to move along in my period of like reconnecting and re-identifying with Sally. There were just so many changes that went down in my life, learning, going to school for feng shui was just hands down game changer, changed my whole life. Feng shui is like, when I learned feng shui, it was like, oh my God, that's the thing. That's the thing that's been in me that I've been doing my whole life. Like there is a natural order to life and I get it. The resonance was so deep. I was like, that's what I do when I clean. That's what I do when I cut hair for someone. I'm harmonizing. That's what I like. It was everything to me. So finding feng shui was like really what brought me back to my homeostasis. I could figure out like, where am I going? I had an incredible teacher, Ivana Magoria. She is now living in the stars and she changed my whole life. And it's funny, when I was studying feng shui, I went to a school, it was called fashion feng shui, because I was like, well, this will fit perfectly because, from doing hair, working like in anthropology and like really just like being enmeshed. I love fashion, love style, love anything expressive.
Yeah.
So finding that, I didn't even really know what I was doing. When I went to that school, I was like, it was a big deal to take yourself away from your family and go study. I got a lot of criticism from all the other moms that were like, what are you doing? Why are you, but I just knew that I knew that there was something there for me. I knew that there was more for me. And I remember going into that and I was in Boston and I was like in this like business district. And so like you're staying at a hotel. And I was like, I don't even know what to do with myself, like not being home, taking care of my kids. I go downstairs and there's like business people. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like what people in the world are like doing this. They're like out somewhere, hotel, having breakfast in their suits. To me, It was like, oh my God, there's a world but when I met Ivana right before we started, she sat down and she was like, so why are you here? And I was like, oh my God, I'm just like so lit up on fashion and style. And I love feng shui. I believe in Chinese medicine. Like I'm just like so ready for it all. And I just can't wait to learn more and go home and like really help people with this. And she was like, I think you're going to be very surprised at the spiritual experience that you've signed up for. And I was like, huh? And she like got up and walked away. This was like the breakfast of the morning. I'm like, the heck does that mean? And it was a spiritual experience to learn to come home to the elements within yourself and understand how the elements exist within us. And then at the very end, it was, okay, well, now how do we layer textures and different elements onto ourselves to help express ourselves in the most unique, aligned way possible? That's what makes us all so unique, right? Our ability to connect with certain textures and different things. So from there, came home and I was like, I'm a feng shui consultant. That's what I do. Nobody had any frigging idea what that was. I hadn't known, I wasn't prepared for that. So I was like trying to, tell people, hey, let me come. And I ended up finding myself like cleaning out people's closets. And it was like, this isn't what I'm trying to convey. Like I'm missing the mark. I need some other form of education. There's something I'm missing. So I signed up for life coaching school, and it was incredible. Life coaching school was like, what in the world? Like, I have been doing this my whole life. As a child, I've been motivating people, cheerleading for people. As a hairdresser, I was, coaching people behind the chair, not aware. It just made so much sense to me that, motivation is a skill set. Not everybody has it. And, to really focus on sharpening those executive skills of listening and knowing how to discern what you're picking up from the person to serve back to them the best of them so that they can see themselves is just like freaking amazing. So I loved coaching school, just piled on. At that time, I had found I was already practicing yoga and heavy into a meditation practice. Took a yoga teacher training. Everybody along they're in this journey at some point takes a yoga teacher training. If you're like me, take 5. I took 5. You know, I just like couldn't get enough of it. Couldn't. And there's so many different teachers. Like yoga is life changing. And I just started, like, I had a podcast called Soul Sister Circle. Like, I was just like really, really coming into my own identity. And as I was doing that and exploring, my marriage was kind of drifting apart. We were becoming different people. So went through a divorce, and it was really, really probably the most difficult time in my life. I mean, you were there for me through a lot of it, Greta, and I'll never, ever, ever forget that.
I feel I should have been there more.
I mean, when you're in a fetal position and you've got like, nowhere to go, or you don't know who to talk to, or you don't know who to trust, and you're literally petrified for your life, you were one of my people. And not just for me, but for my children.
Well,
And
I love you all so, so much. I will do anything for you.
yeah, I'm ugly cry, but I will never forget that.
Yeah.
And, you gave me permission to stand up for myself, because I think a lot of times when women are going through transition times, you feel like everyone else's life or job is way more important than yours. And you really gave me a lot of courage to be like, no, actually, you don't have to say yes to that at all. And you're allowed to have an opinion. So it's a powerful time. And at that point, I had already kind of started in my business. I was doing Reiki. I trained in all levels and became a Reiki master. And I transitioned my little salon, Sally, into a space of healing. But at a certain point, I had to stop everything to tend to the transition in my life that was happening. And that was the most important focus of my life. And while I did that, we ended up moving, lots of big, big, big changes, from that suburbia house to a little teeny weeny house, big changes for my kids. But something really miraculous happened during all of that. So I, I'll say now, looking back in hindsight, my practice saved my life. Saved my life. If I didn't have my practice, if I wasn't connected to feng shui and Reiki and yoga in the ways that I was, I don't know if I would have survived that time.
Right.
It was really, really dark. So when we moved, I had a little barn out back, and I turned it into a studio. And all of a sudden, I started attracting all of these suburbia moms that were looking for a place to kind of come and talk about the problems and challenges within their marriage. A lot of them were going through divorce. And it was really interesting. And then the kids started coming to me and saying, hey, Mom, do you think you could have a little class for my friends on meditation? Because they're saying their mom and dad are going through a divorce, and they're wondering how we're doing it. So it was really wild, interesting time to then have all these kids coming and finding a safe haven to talk about the things that were going on in their homes at a time when people weren't doing that.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was a very judgmental kind of time, period. And that was really amazing. And then I went on to open up a studio in Chadds Ford, which was just incredible. And that kind of really flourished and brought all of my work to a platform that was sustainable, because we know that the healing arts world, right? It's like, am I going to eat this month? Or like, yeah, I want to work. And then you want to help everyone. So it's like, you can't like actually help everyone for free because you got like bills to pay and stuff.
Right. You're like,
But
oh,
stepping into that business, I had no idea what I was doing, whatsoever. But opening up that studio space in the midst of my life falling apart was profound. I remember going there and I signed the lease and I got in my car and I just like started bawling my eyes out. I'm like, what in the world did I just do? Like, I don't even know if I can pay my rent. I don't know what's happening. I have 3 children. They're all in high school and I'm signing a lease for this, like what? For like wish and a dream. And like, what am I feel? And it was, I go home that day and I'm like literally having a panic attack. I'm like freaking out. I cannot get a hold of myself. I trying all my tools, Reiki, laying crystals all over me. I can't get a hold of myself. I can't breathe. The kids were going to be getting off the bus soon. And I can remember so clearly, I laid down on my bed, crystals all over me. And I'm breathing. And I hear, and I'm like, I start settling and I can hear. It's so funny. If you've ever had a panic attack, there's a voice behind that. That's very subtle. That's like trying to get you to calm down, but this is loud. The panic attack's really loud. And the voice behind it is so subtle. So for whatever reason, I'm listening to this voice and it says, just be soul. Just be soul.
chills.
And it was so relieving in that moment. I was, oh my God, that's right. I'm just a soul. Like, I'm not even Sally. I'm not this divorce. I'm not this situation. I'm not all these problems. I'm not all this anxiety. I'm just a soul. I'm just a soul in this body. Like, I'm just a soul. And I just kept saying it and I fell asleep. What felt like forever. And then I jumped up. I woke up. My phone was ringing. And it was the groundskeeper of the village of where I just signed a lease for a new space. And he's like, hey, yeah, you're the lady that's taking over unit 104. Yeah, what's it called? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what it's called. And he was like, you don't know what your business is called? He's like, no. And he was like, okay, well, I'm making signs and I need your name. So can you like call me back by the end of the day and like let me know? I'm like, okay, I hang up. And I'm like, I'm like, BeSoul, BeSoul, be a soul. So I Google BeSoul, and it's not a word, but Urban Dictionary gives me the word and it says to be endowed with soul. And I was like, that's exactly it. Not only is it the medicine that I need to just be soul, but I want to be a business that helps others come home to remember their soul, to just remember that you are just a soul. So that was kind of like a huge wave of a change for me. And then, life continues to transform. Ended up finding myself, moving from there, coming down here at the beach, opening up a studio down here, still doing the same thing. It's like this work. If I wanted to get away from it, I couldn't, it just like is constantly following me everywhere I go. Just be soul, just be soul. So it's like at the heartbeat of everything, I feel like it's not work anymore. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's just like living a soul-based lifestyle. That's it, and keeping people tapped into that, keeping yourself on the pulse of life, because this world is super noisy out here.
Yeah.
And we get so like caught up. We can literally get hijacked into a whole nother space. And when we talk about, like the Great Divide and like the world dividing, especially our country dividing, it really is, it has nothing to do with politics. It comes down to Are you going to live this overstimulated life? Or are you going to come back to the truth of life? And the heartbeat of life is Reiki, really. I mean, Reiki is just a funny word, right? It's just a Japanese word. But really, it just means life force. And when applied, it's spiritually guided life force.
Right.
Feng Shui is the same thing. It's like getting into that rhythmic law of the seasons and whatever that force. I'm looking outside my window right now, and I always say, whatever's moving wind, moving the trees, moving the seasons, that invisible force that's like, constantly moving things around. There's no stopping. It never stops. It's always in perfect divine order, and it has nothing to do with what's going on in the world. It's the only true, honest leader there is nature.
Is nature.
It's nature. And when you find your nature, when you get into rhythm or just have the tools to know what that is, you always find your way back home, And I feel like, look, the pandemic like changed everything. I was like a starving healing arts artist. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hits and it was like, can you talk to 2,000 nurses tonight at 11 o'clock? And I'm like, yes. And it's like healing arts is everything. I mean, I tell everybody like we're going green and we're never going back. Like this is the wave, energetic wellness is the wave. If we're not healthy, if we're not befriended in these bodies and connected to nature, then are you actually alive?
Absolutely.
Are you actually on the heartbeat of life? So it's essential. These are like essentials now. So I went from being in a very woo-woo kind of world, and now I kind of feel my work is actually very practical.
Yeah, I feel similarly about that. Yeah, because we both came up doing Reiki and guided meditations and all of that. And people are like, do you have a rake? You're like, no, I don't have a rake for my Reiki. They're like, what is this?
You have a rake.
Yeah, that was definitely my dad's favorite. He'd be like, where's your rake? I mean, knowing you've embodied this forever. And you're somebody who's loved and had such an appreciation and trust and faith in all of this in a way that I don't see very often, right? Like, and I know even for myself, even being all in this world, it comes and goes. At least it came and went. And now I'm, again, have a different way. It's not woo to me anymore. It's not in that space. It's practical energetics, like connecting with your heart energy is just connecting with your heart energy is just, there's nothing that needs to be, and I mean, they're even studying it, right? So if you need the data is there, right? Like, and I understand that. I like, when I just did my podcast about a bunch of herbs that can help you when you're freaking out, I included all of the studies with it because I like to see those studies.
Right.
It helps us sometimes be able to ground into our practice. But at this time, I think for people like us, right, where we've lived this experience where it's become just part of who we are and how we do things. And it almost will forget, right? Like, I know I forget when I'm around people who don't live that way. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Oh, right.
Yeah.
I forgot. But like, I probably think she's really weird. And I'm like, I am, and that's, I love it. But I forget, just how weird sometimes. But being able to teach people by example, by lovingly passing things along, by just dropping little ideas, which is the biggest reason that this podcast exists, is because I want someone to listen to your journey and see themselves in there and go, okay, all right, that sparked a remembrance within me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to acquire the tools that work for you, right? Like I used to feel really bad about the fact that, especially when I took 10 years off from martial arts, right? Like really sick. I got into healing arts when I got really sick. I took 10 years off martial arts and I felt guilty about the fact that all I wanted to do sometimes was to punch the crap out of a bag or like wrestle somebody, But for me, that's part of my practice. And I didn't realize it until I came back. And I went, well, like that for me is a physical outlet. I'm having fun doing it. I'm not angry about it. It's actually just a good way to channel the things that did make me angry about being sick, about having poor relationships and blah, 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 right? I'm a better Greta because, I try to choke my friends out a couple of nights a week, which is like, I've always, and it took me a while to go like, that is part of my practice. just like standing in the middle of the woods and just listening to everything and just being and just looking at a tree and wondering how long it's lived there, or
Right.
seeing a hawk fly by and wondering if it saw me waving. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh," you know? Uh, and I think that really, like you said, that really is the time that we're in. It's an invitation to everybody. And the pandemic, I felt it was that meme where it was like obviously there was tremendous challenges, and this is not to minimize the challenges that happened, but it's to highlight the value of practice, the highlight the value of having a practice, because our world is changing rapidly. We have things coming up that are, that things that come up that are frightening, that are disorienting. And when you have a practice, whatever that practice looks like, and it can shift and change and evolve as much as you want it to, it is a lot easier to get through those times. So, like, I know during the pandemic, there was that meme that was like the dog, I think it's a dog, and he's like looking sideways and he's like, it's like everyone acting like this is weird, like having, I guess because I worked from home, me working from home didn't feel as weird, right? So it was like, everyone's thinking this is weird. And I'm like, this seems like my normal life in a lot of ways.
Right. Yes.
And granted, I worked from home, so that's different. So that would be very different. But having the skill set to be able to be, let's say, by yourself, or to be in a contemplative place, or to find joy and connection when you can't go out and just do whatever you want,
Right.
Spending a giant portion of my life being very sick and not being able just to go like do things, I learned a different way to find meaning. I learned a different way to find fulfillment. And those became my practice. So when something like the pandemic hit or major life changes hit, I wasn't, like you said, like I made it out alive and was able to build upon it, even though, it still sucked. It wasn't fun.
Yes.
Right? But it was doable. It was doable.
It was doable.
And it was transformative as opposed to being just eroded us, So it's wonderful to see people be able to embrace what used to just be like woo about things,
Yeah.
and actually find that it's just part of creating a meaningful life.
That's right. One of the things during the pandemic was it was shocking to me to see how disconnected people were. That was the biggest thing, I think. And the biggest gift that came out of the pandemic is that people were forced to get still for a moment, to go home and realize like, shit, I don't like my home. And like, do I got to stay in this house with this person? Cause like, I can't stand them. How do I get out of this? So many, or how do I, I don't like the habits that I have, or my mindset's horrible, or it was just like, it got quiet when you had to go home. So people were coming to this awareness of, I don't even know who I am. I don't know who I am. And that's a beautiful spot.
Yes.
That's, my daughter, Brielle, she would often say, like, through her, like, teenage years, like, I don't even know who I am, and I don't know. And my thing was, well, like, that's great, because you have to lose yourself to find yourself, to find yourself, and throughout life, we're meant to lose ourselves to find the next version of self. She actually got that tattooed on the side of her body when she was at senior week. Yeah, got to lose myself to find myself. Like it's like to see the world do that was really, really, well, actually quite frightening at first, because, those years where we got to see the reality of society. Yeah. We got to see the reality. We went through so many things we don't even remember anymore because we've just been through so many different things, like we don't even know. Yeah. And it just has continued to get louder and louder and louder and louder and louder and louder over there. And so it's kind of really forcing people to learn how to handle themselves, learn how to, through the anxiety that we've all been, has been thrusted upon us, it has also become our biggest teacher to nervous system regulation and finding something that is real and truthful in your life, because you're not that noise. None of us are. That's man-made bullshit. I don't even know what it is. It doesn't make sense. It's made up, But when you when you find a practice that brings you home, you realize that you're not that. And then the spiritual path begins. Because then it's like, well, then who am I if I'm not that, you know?
Right.
And it really does come down to scientific measures. I love that the pandemic brought us to, first of all, energy medicine, which was being used, like always used in hospitals, but on the DL, you know, like, yeah, I went and I volunteered at a lot of different things too. And they were like, well, we don't call it Reiki here. You know, we just call it healing touch. And, you know, so it was always kind of like, you know, just don't ever talk about the science that this person is a vibrating piece of energy, like an atom, and you're going to help them. Like, don't you dare talk like that. But this pandemic happened and it's like, oh, well, now we can have these people in the operating rooms. We can now teach nurses how to, you know, hold loving touch and jump on frequency with people through Reiki. So we got all this scientific data through that. And I love that because honestly, being part of woo culture was very isolating. And it also kind of, for me, you know, I'm 55 now, but being like a grown, mature woman, being in, and this is my business, this is my livelihood, there was a certain aspect to the woo culture that kind of like dumbed down my work.
Yeah, it was like minimizing in that way.
Right. And I know you know what that means because we've had many conversations about that, especially when you were doing Kitchen Witch. And it's like, no, these are like, this is real. The plants are feeding us all the medicine we need. Why aren't you listening to me? Why are you like calling me a witch and woo woo and all this stuff? Yeah. Like, yeah, maybe a little bit, but you know, these are like old tools. And for whatever reason, you know, society forgot about them. Greed culture took over. Big pharma took over. Spirituality was squeezed out of religion. It's just religious institutions. And people just lost their way for a really long time, you know? But I believe we're coming back. I see the future. I am like, you'll never steal my pom-poms. I am an eternal cheerleader for the universe. Like, I just know that we're evolving. Humanity is evolving. That's why the world feels weird right now, because we're in the wobble. We're in evolution. Hello. I mean, look at AI. Look at technology. Teachers in schools. Like, how do you all of a sudden you need to come back to the elements. You need to start trusting in nature and this natural course. Like, world wars could be happening. And summer's still going to be summer. Fall's still going to be fall. Winter's still, the cycles are still moving. There's a cyclical force that's way bigger than us. There's this unnamed mystical force, not voice. Well, maybe it has a voice sometimes when you're still enough to listen. That is guiding us and has always been guiding us. This isn't woo. This is truth. And for whatever reason, we've lost our way, you know. And I really truly believe that we're like in the Super Bowl of humanity right now. Like, this is exciting shit, you know?
Yeah.
I don't see the world as doomed. I see the world as like full of possibilities and expansion. I think that we're about to become incredibly innovative. In my era, because I'm old.
Please.
My number is, but my soul number is I'm eternally 17.
I say I'm a wizened lady. I'm like, I'm wizened.
I like that. Anyway, I could go on and on. I just know that we're evolving into something really, really spectacular. And all we need to do is just connect to our natural rhythms. It's really not that complicated, but it seems very complicated in a noisy world. You know?
So incredibly beautifully put. Like, I think that it's so important for there to be cheerleaders. Like, I definitely consider that's something I'm eternally optimistic about things. Some of it is because I just can't handle the other. What am I going to do? Cry about things? I'll cry and then I'll want to do something good. Like, that's the only way that or contribute something. We need, obviously, there's times to take action and there's times to do things, right? And then also most of our lifetime, like you said, the seasons and everything. And most of the time we're with our community. And if we're not feeding our community, whatever that community looks like, if we're not, then then you're missing your opportunity to actually do what you want to do, which is lift, right? So I love the quote that we tend to the garden that we can touch.
Yeah.
And it's not to say we don't care about the garden on the other lawn or whatever, like far away. Obviously, I think because we are also connected from technology now, like it's very hard. And people like us who are like, I know I talked to my therapist about it before, just going like, the weight of the world, and I want to like do something, but I don't even know what to do, And
Right.
this is part of what I've chosen to do about it is to have these conversations so that whatever part of the garden that this touches can help somebody feel like they're coming home to themselves, feel like they have the hope to do the thing that their heart is calling them to do. Who knows what that person's ripple effect might do? And I know you and I very much share this belief. It's like, that is our job, is to remind people of the light within themselves. And then they go and do the same elsewhere, right? And I think that, I definitely, when I am, let's just say, like sharing on social media about all of the, good vibe and the whole like toxic positivity. I told Matt that, and he was like, "Are you kidding me? People are mad about positivity." And he's like,
they'll argue about anything.
Yeah. He was like, "You're kidding me." And he's so, he's not at all from this world. Like I've brought him, I'm like, check out all these weird things. And he's like, "You're kidding me." I was like, people think that that's just like bypassing, what's bad. And it's just like in our life, right? We have to address what needs to be addressed. If we're in a boat and there's holes in the boat, you got to deal with the holes, but you also can't just think that the boat's going to sink just because there's some holes. You can patch it up, and you have to, not have to. I choose to believe that, like what you're saying, it's not doom, we're blooming, we are blooming. And it's growth isn't, as we know from going through, and I think this is the thing, if you've been through a dark night of the soul or several, it doesn't feel cool. It's not fun. It feels like everything is going wrong.
Right.
And we're collectively doing that. And I think that something I like to remind people who are listening, if they're going through a dark night of the soul, if everything is feeling like it's falling down around you and you feel like you're on the right path. Let's say that too. You're like, I'm going to go in this direction. I feel the word compelled has come up a lot for me recently. I'm compelled. I can't not do it. I'm compelled to do this podcast, to do music, to do more, like I'm compelled. But you go in that direction, and then maybe some things flow. Some things are just like, no. And then some things flow. And knowing that nothing has gone wrong, that is the path. That is it. Sometimes it feels like it has all gone wrong, but it's actually going in the right direction. And if you're going through it right now and you're hearing that and you're like, shut up, I understand that too. Because you're like, I don't want to hear about that. This sucks right now. And, it does probably, right? Like if you're going through something like that, it's not fun. It sucks. But if you, at the very least, can remember your soul, can remember your heart, can connect with nature, it doesn't need to be something grandiose. It can literally be a tree that you make friends with and leave little offerings or whatever for the squirrels who come by. Like, follow that call, and you will find that peace. You will find that meaning. It's not necessarily like, and then everything's just better. That's not really the point in my mind, I guess.
I really feel like as I'm listening to you, I'm like, it's all about the ritual, and this is like a lost art, right? Our ancestors would ritual all the time, and we really lost that sense of ritualizing. Like even people like, I can remember being a kid and like my parents didn't go to church, but they made us go to church. It was like, what are we doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people, we would use things as like a front or like a, something, but you're not actually doing it. You're not actually involved in it. And when we're ritualizing, what really ritualizing is kind of like romanticizing life or romanticizing nature or, having stillness whether it's the sun or you're gardening or like whatever it is. But every time we ritualize, creating a ritual, having a ritualized lifestyle is how you manage your nervous system. It's when you learn how your nervous system feels at home, when it feels like, soulful or connected, and when it feels like chaos. When it feels like chaos, that's not who you are. That's never who you are. Chaos is never the truth of who you are. It's the truth of maybe circumstances or choices, but it's never the essence of who you are. And when we ritualize, especially when we get connected to nature, even through journaling, you getting connected to the nature of you. That's when you can really find peace and ease. You feel harmonized.
Yes. Yeah.
So I talk about the ritual. I'm a big I'm a big ritualist. Uh,
Same.
but because it brings people back to the meaning of life.
Yeah.
And when you ritual, usually people, especially I lead rituals a lot. So for example, we just had the winter solstice and I was able to lead people through a ritual. And for some people, that's their first touch point.
Yeah.
Well, that's the first time that they actually slowed down enough to listen, that to me is that's everything. That's all of everything that we would need in life is, that connection to the soul and the heartbeat of life. I really feel like that's where humanity is going because of AI, because of, tech is exploding beyond, of course it is, beyond what we could imagine. But that doesn't mean that humanity's doomed.
Right. Right.
Right? What are we
Yeah.
talking?
Yeah.
That means that humanity is coming alive back to the basics of who we really are. We're now focusing on energetic wellness, energetic hygiene. We're on these things all the time. And this is affecting the way that you're responding to other people. It's affecting everything in our lives. I could just go on and on and on about this. I know you're picking up when I'm laying down. I hope
I love it.
y'all who are listening out there are picking up what I'm
No,
laying.
I love it so much because everybody's listening. I know, this is. I mean, I just love you so. I mean, hello. How do I not love you so much? Everything you're saying, and I think there was so many things that were popping into my head about this ritual for sure. Yeah, I definitely, even just having a nice sort of morning routine, I kind of swap things out here and there, but it's gotten to a place for me. It's the time to set the foundation for the day. I still, I feel much better in terms of Lyme, but for instance, if you have something like that, a health situation, I do movement so my body feels good when I'm sitting. I do breath meditation or journaling, a bunch of the, I'll kind of wake up or maybe set the intention the night before of which one I'm feeling is where my energy's at. Sometimes it's a hot bath, sometimes it's a nature walk.
Right.
But
sometimes it's just a deep breath.
Sometimes
with your feet on the ground.
Exactly, and I listen to that and have just sort of my grab bag of things that I know bring me to my center and help me be able to show up as me that day, because I know I used to start the day with angry texts from band member people or somebody yelling at me, be ah! Or stressful texts from friends and family. And then some other stress, just constant.
Addicted to stress.
Yeah. And I would wake up like that. And I was everything was unmanageable from the moment I opened my eyes, because that would happen. So I started going about things way differently after many years of not figuring that out. And then being all right, how about I try this differently? And some of that was just these people no longer have contact with me. You have lost. And there's a lot of peace in that. And some of it was just notifications, turning notifications off and leaving your phone. Something I've been doing recently is just not bringing my phone with me to the bathroom. I'm
that's a good one. Because everybody's scrolling on the pooper.
We're all scrolling. We're all there. We're all talking to each other on the toilet. So I never really thought about that, actually.
I know.
I know. How you doing over there? I think that, it's something I've started doing because, you just get honestly, even if I'm peeing, I'm just oh, what's that? Oh, I thought about that. I thought about that. And if you have any kind of ADHD, you're just feeding the ADHD. So I've been doing a lot more things in silence. I even just used to put podcasts on more or music on or something. And now I've been doing a lot more things just in silence. And it's, very obviously it is good, right? That's just, of course, right? But that's one of the reasons I don't, whether I'm walking with Matt or I'm walking by myself, I don't have any kind of headphones on. I don't have any kind of music. I don't have any kind of distractions. I'm just in the woods.
Right.
And you just get A walking meditation is one of the most calibrating things I think
Oh,
available
yeah.
to us at any time. All you need is a place to walk, really. And of course,
Mhm.
maybe you don't have that, but again, just sitting with something. But if you can just walk with no external input, it's absolutely incredible. But I think something there's a couple things. I'll try to. One thing, when you're telling your story, initially, I do teach women's jujitsu, and I have all the moms who come,
Mm.
I don't have children, but I have two cat babies. And I think I told you once, I was like 3 old cats equals half a child.
For sure.
So, one of the things that I really was trying to hold that space for with them and still do and have heard back is like, some of the most incredible moms that I've gotten to meet. And obviously, your children are a testament to you, and you just make like, you're just doing it. Your kids are the best. I've heard from several of the moms say, this is the first time I've done something for myself
Right.
in a really long time.
Big
And
deal.
yeah, and I think, I really take that to heart, especially as somebody who's in their life who wants to hold that space for them. Even if I don't totally understand that experience, I've had other things that have taken me away from me.
Mhm.
And so I understand that experience. I understand the decision that it takes to make yourself a priority to yourself,
Mhm.
and that people around you get upset. It can feel really uncomfortable. It is a decision that is not really promoted that well for women.
Mhm.
I think it is up until a certain point. Unfortunately, I think also, not unfortunately, but I think just another layer of it is in our culture now, it's kind of like you can be a mom and have these jobs and do these things. And I think,
Yeah, what a crock of shit.
yeah, like that's, I think that moms should be.
Unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, so it just sets up this dynamic where there's so much there's so much pressure, and there are so many expectations, and there's not a framework, it seems, that holds the
Mhm.
space for women in particular who are feeling a call of their heart, wanting to
Mhm.
go in a direction and follow that, and also wanting to give their kids everything because that's their family, those are children, and
Yeah.
they're depending on their mom and their dad to help them not spend their whole adulthood in therapy.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Therapy's great. My mom, I keep talking about this. She's going to be like, Greta, stop talking about this. I was like, she goes, you talk about being in therapy a lot. And I was like, yeah, I want people to know that it's good. Like, therapy's really, really good. Any of these
Very good.
practices, it's good if you want to do that. You want to dive deep and understand yourself better. And of course, I'm going to talk about that.
Yes.
But yeah, I think, for let's say somebody who's listening who is feeling torn about making more time for themselves or setting a ritual for themselves, especially as we come into, I'm kind of going to fold these two things together because I think that they do. And I think you and I feel very similarly about rhythms and seasons,
Mhm.
obviously. We're coming up, this will actually be airing on January 6th. So it'll be
Mhm.
the new year. And a lot of people have so many cultural, the big S society, new year, new me, blah, blah. I love that I've seen a lot of pushback about that. But let's say setting an intention. I like to break things down either quarterly, like equinox and solstice is more of my new year. I kind of go by those. Or
Mhm.
I'll do it if I'm really kind of zeroing in that focus, I'll go month by month with the moon cycles. So either
Mhm.
moon, but the quarterly has really worked for me. And so I don't know if that's something I'm kind of convoluting all these questions together, but for somebody who wants to start their practice but is feeling guilty about it because they're responsible for little people who are growing up and they feel like if I do something for myself, are they going to be okay? How do I fold this all together if I stray from what is expected from me, from my family, from my whatever?
Right.
If you want to speak to
So,
that.
I mean, your first responsibility to your children is to be yourself because you are the example that they are observing. So, if we are teaching our children to constantly stay busy to avoid your own self, then, I mean, that's like the wrong way. You know, taking time for yourself is showing your kids. I mean, we were such a ritualistic family. Like my stuff was always right out in the open. I'm an open book. So, the kids were always very involved and they got to watch my transformation. They got to observe my transformation. And it really changed how they respond to life, And now they know how to ground themselves. They know what matters most. It's just the most important gift that you can give your children is some sort of faith, some sort of spirituality. Not talking about religion. Religion is a whole different animal, but giving them some sort of visual, because they're watching you, some sort of visual and tactile skills to help them see what it looks like to ritual. Like it can be as simple as like, listen, some of my rituals with the kids were, yes, I meditated every single morning. That was a big thing for me and still is to this day, is like, I need a lot of space in the morning time. Like that is sacred ground. It's like, it's everything.
Okay.
But they also would, when they got off the bus and they got in the house, the first thing I would do was like rip their backpacks off of them, drop them on the floor, and we'd have a dance party. And it would always kick off because Ellen was always on. Do you remember Ellen was on?
Yeah.
Ellen would do that goofy dance at the beginning of the show and she would like straddle her coffee table and we would do that. We would start with that. And it was like, let's just, before you've been working your brain so hard all day long, let's have this dance party here. And it was the funnest thing that would bring them back to like home. Yeah. Home should feel where you regulate.
Wow. That sounds so wonderful. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start doing that just for us. Oh my God.
I mean, we have the serious things, right? We can't get away from, we got to pay our bills. We got to try to figure out how to survive in this world. And we're all aware of that. Actually, that's been like forced down our throats. We're more aware of that than we are to eat better, to take a few deep breaths, to, connect with nature, or life isn't a performance.
Right. Yeah. And I think that generationally speaking too, those coming up, it's really important to reinforce that because our social medias are to an extent a performance, right? Like there's definitely people who just sharing away from their heart and then get filters upon filters upon filters, which also can be some sort of expression. So there's no like shame in it. It's just it's not exactly real, right? Like, so if you're looking at that to be what is happening in that person's life, let's say if it's like very curated, just knowing. And I think of all ages, everyone needs to know that. And especially
everyone, shout it louder for the people in the back.
No, yeah. And again, just like putting the phones down more. And I love social media for connecting with people and seeing what you're up to and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't love it for how much, as self-employed people, right? Like how much it dominates my mind of like, oh, that would be a great post. I'm like, shut up. But I think that, just people understanding that's not real. But I think, you guys having dance parties. And can I ask you, just because I feel like I would be curious, like, in the morning when you meditated with kids, I have in my head, kids wake up and they wake you up and they're like, I meditate with cats. And they're like, excuse me. And then they might be like, I want mom's lap and I want mom, so I know my meditation is interrupted a lot and that's fine. That's part of it. How did that look? Like, how would you suggest to a mom? Because people hear meditation all the time. And I think I talk about it a lot here, where it doesn't need to be this big long thing. You could literally, like Allie's been doing incredible, like 2 or 3 minute meditation.
Yeah, I love them.
It's great. You could just dip in for however long you can. There's many ways to get still, but just like as a mom with children, what do you recommend if a mom's listening and is like, listen, I do not know how to make that happen in the morning? Like,
right. Well, first of all, you have to cultivate a practice for yourself. And then you can invite the family to join in. They're going to be curious because they're going to notice a difference in you. There was lots of times that I would be meditating and so dropped in and I open my eyes and Gavin's sitting in front of me. Like, and I'm like, man, this is why this is everything. Like you lead by example. You do these things and you lead by example. But if you're really looking to have a family meditation, like, it doesn't take it off the cushion, man. Like, go take a walk in nature. The meditation is we don't bring our phones, and we're going to listen to the sounds of what we hear. Your foot landing on the earth and cracking a stick or a leaf, the wind blowing the leaves on the trees, the birds coming by. Like, that's meditation. I think that we first need to demystify what meditation looks like, because it's not sitting in lotus for, extended periods of time. It's about being engaged with life. So even if it's a stillness meditation that you're doing in your home where you're like, okay, we're all going to sit. So you set a timer and you say, we're not going to talk for 3 minutes. And we're going to focus on the temperature on our skin and the sounds of the house and the sounds happening outside. And then we're going to come back to our breath. And then we're going to come back to the outside. And then we're going to come back to our breath. And then you start learning that there's a world in here and there's a world out there. And the real teacher of meditation is how to find balance between that world and this world, And when you have a meditation practice, when your kids have a meditation practice, they learn how to harmonize themselves. So they start to understand their frequency, which is basically your nervous system, right?
Right.
So, and when you learn that, then you learn how to socialize. Your nervous system will tell you who the safe people are, right? You learn, you learn what to put your focus and attention to at school, not necessarily always what the teacher's telling you. You don't have to consistently try to be good at the thing that you suck at. How about you go embrace the things that make your heart sing or make you feel confident, And all of meditation is a practice for us to learn our nervous system so that we can make better choices that help keep our nervous system in check, in alignment. And when your nervous system is in alignment, then you're teaching, or when you're practicing these things with your kids, you're really teaching them the art of authenticity in a world where we are really losing that, especially for young kids with TikTok and, everything, all the things, authenticity is the heartbeat of life, who you are when you're not on this device.
Right.
Who are you? I could give you a million ways and really it's just start. Just sit down with them and say, I'm going to have a meditation practice because I have anxiety and I want to breathe.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think, breath, like box breathing, I think is one of my favorite ways to just
Simple.
Inhale, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. That just simple. You could do it 3 times and you're a new person afterwards. And, you were saying, I love how you're saying what the nervous system is, understanding our nervous system is knowing ourselves. And knowing ourselves is really, when we know ourselves, we can be kinder to ourselves. We can actually listen with our thing, right? To the guidance, and that, right, I think is what we're both so focused on helping people understand is that they have that compass within.
Right.
And you can only really hear it when you do have a practice to get to know yourself.
That's it.
Many times we're invited to get to know ourselves through really shitty situations.
Right.
It's an invitation.
And then you get shamed for your nervous system.
Yeah.
You're too sensitive. There's literally something wrong with you. And this is when medications come into play and they can be very beneficial at certain times, but it is not a way of life.
Right. There's an invitation. Well, yeah, for most people at least. Yeah. I think there's an invitation to, I always, I know the military has this saying and I use it a lot because I hear it a lot in martial arts too. You embrace the suck. And honestly, it's one of the most spiritual things you could possibly do. And it doesn't mean you embrace it with a smile and you embrace it with like, hooray. It just means you have acceptance for what is. And there's this, if there's alchemy anywhere, it's in that surrender. It's in that, in that acceptance of what is. And it's not something, at least in my experience, it's not something that necessarily I'll feel and I'll feel and I'll feel and I'll feel. I'll feel it in like flashes, like lightning striking, I'm like, acceptance. Okay. I feel it. And then I'll feel it again. Eve coming over or something. I like to talk. This is like, for me, one of the biggest things I love to talk about for people, because I think that you and I have discovered these things by like the mud and the lotus, by like going through them, being like, is this normal? Like, is this what this is supposed to feel like right now? Am I doing it? And then you build that trust with yourself after so much time of just wondering. At least I know I am, like, am I doing it right? And something I reflect when I teach, especially jujitsu. And I talk about, I mean, it's weird how much jujitsu correlates with everything in the way that you learn things, right? So it's kind of learning a language, and you can't rush it. It's a spiritual practice as far as I'm concerned. You just show up. You show up and you suck, and you don't know what's going on, and you don't know what to do, and people are smashing you, and you're just like, I hate this, but I love it because I understand there's something I can do.
Yeah. There's a force in me.
And you just keep showing up, and your body learns how to do things. It becomes part of you. And thing that I always tell my students, and specifically the women, because we are always like, I'm going to do a good job. Let it be messy. Let yourself suck. Just show up. Just let it. I'm not going to ever be like, no, you need to drill that better. Like, you were messy there. We're all messy when we're doing it. But just keep doing it. And there's something in jiu-jitsu, a professor that I had taken a class from, and he was like, in jiu-jitsu, it comes down to two things. It's either move your hips, shoulders, or it's more mat time, meaning you have to just roll more. You have to have more experience on the mat. And if we stop ourselves because we think we're doing something wrong all the time, and we're not aware that that's just part of the learning process as an adult who is just experiencing life, you'll stop yourself. You'll never get to where you're going because you're like, I didn't do it right the first 5 times I did it. Let yourself be messy. And it's not to say just only be messy, right? But it's like, let yourself just be as you show up and create this relationship with yourself and with the beyond. It's that to me is something that I just, like, want to help pass along to whoever is ready to hear it. Whoever's like, oh, okay, that resonates right now. Yeah.
It's like man's search for meaning. Like, we're all we're all searching for that thing, that next cup of coffee. That's not like we're searching. And it's like, it's so simplistic. What we're searching for is ourselves.
Yeah.
What we're searching for is a regulated nervous system, so like you can actually be normal and not be like twitching and, thinking about the next thing. One of my favorite things to do in meditation, though, and then I swear I'll be done with this, is, I mean, I love breath work. I love all the breath work. I think, there's so many different forms of breath work. They're all phenomenal. But a lot of times, especially in Reiki, I say to people, don't try to do any breath work at all. Like, do nothing and just let yourself be breathed, because you actually don't have control over that. Something else is breathing you alive. So just let life breathe you. It's the same thing, that mystical thing, prana, air, oxygen. I don't know. What do you want to call it? Like wind? I don't know. It's invisible. We can't see it, but it's the same life force that's feeding everything alive. The plants, the trees, the animals, the oceans, everything alive is being breathed. And we're not walking around thinking about breathing all the time. We're not breathing. No, you're not thinking about it probably most of your life.
Right.
So what the freak is that? Like, what is that? And start getting curious about that. Start and if you really just let life breathe you, because you can only hold your breath for a certain period of time, and like something is going to force you to breathe. The body is going to do the thing,
Right.
So if you just let life breathe you, you instantly connect with something spiritual, something bigger, something that's running not just you, but all of life. What is it? We can call it God. You can call it the universe. I don't care what you call it.
Right.
We call it nothing. I mean, it is breathing you. So it's, but I tell people in Reiki training, like, just get in touch with that, because that's where you start to help other people. When you are in touch with that life that's breathing you. The body's exhale is just like taking out the garbage. This meat suit is amazing. It knows exactly what to do. you know, but the breath that's coming through us and we can't stop it, you know? So and when you notice, when you watch your breath, it's just so amazing, the somatics of our breath. Your breath naturally, your chest naturally rises to the heavens. Naturally, it's lifting up, and the exhale is naturally grounding down. We're in this constant expansion, contraction. You know, it's like life. Like, yeah, it's some things suck. It's just, but life is still breathing you.
Yeah.
Life is still breathing you. And it helps us kind of like tap into something bigger has got my back. Like, I'm not so egotistical to believe that I'm running the show here. You know, life is breathing me alive, therefore I must be here for whatever reason that is, whatever meaning that is. And
Right.
hopefully, if people can get into that, like get down with that a little bit, like get curious on breath, then they can start getting curious on the bigger mysteries of life. And when we start to become curious, then we lose our opinions. And when we lose our opinions, and curiosity just keeps expanding us, and we keep accepting each other, and everyone's experience of life and breath is different than yours. And we live in a much different way. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but
I love it. I'm just like
it's
marveling. at
just
you.
like everything. Way more important than monitoring the news or, you know, listening to what he said or she said. Like, go let yourself be breathed.
Yes. Yes. All those things. No, I say all, not all, but many of those things. Find out what you need to find out about the world so that you feel that you can do whatever you need to do. But most of your life is really going to benefit if you're not distracted by, what people are paying a lot of money for you to watch and be engaged with.
Yes.
If you really, let's say you see about the world and you're like, oh my God, there are so many terrible things happening. I want to do something. And, you make whatever phone calls and petitions, whatever you can do out there. But then the other bigger piece of that is what you're doing with yourself, because that is the actual transformation that you bring throughout the world, everybody that you touch. And if everybody, I say everybody, if more of us take ownership of that, right, then that
Right.
really does change things. It's not like we actually don't need every single person to do it. We just need more people to
Exactly.
themselves,
Yeah. And we want them not because like there was a time when even family members say, well, you're trying to shove that spirituality thing down our throats. And it's like, what? You know, and it's so interesting, like where we've come now. And it's like, you want me to do energetic work on you? Or you want me to help you breathe now? Oh, I thought I was shoving that down your throat a while ago. Okay. But let's do it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's
Glad
do
to hear
it. Let's just do the thing
Yeah,
that makes you
yeah.
feel alive. And the more we just like, it's so basic. I think that's why it's hard. It's
Yeah.
when some moms will go back to the moms, you're like, some moms will be like, oh yeah, well, we're up at 6 a.m. and this is it. And it's like, you can have all the excuses and all the distractions in the world, but the heartbeat of your family isn't in the running around. The
Yeah.
heartbeat of your family is the moments that you have at home when you are grounded and connected to each other. And if you have to make that happen, make it happen because it's the most important thing you will do for your family. Families that breathe together, they stay together, they regulate together, they understand. They instead of judging each other, they become more curious, they manage their reactions. There's a lot more love and flexibility. It's just everything. It's kind of like getting back to the basics, It's like, meditation is listening to God, prayer is talking to God. We need both.
We need both. We need both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just to shift subjects a little bit. I know we're coming up. I mean, I don't worry about the time right now, but I was curious. Are you still doing your word of the year?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I love that you have done this. Like, I love this practice so much. And I just want you to share about it because I think it's so.
Yeah. It's been 10 years of teaching.
10 years? Oh my God. Yeah, we talk about ritual and intention because so much of what we're talking about is that intention, right? And sometimes
Right.
we set an intention and we are really good about keeping it at the forefront of our mind. And sometimes it slips, but then you bring it back, which is the same thing
Right.
with meditation. So yeah, so I would love for you to talk about this because I think it's such a cool a cool offering.
Well, sometimes when we set intentions, they're performance based.
Yes.
Right? So they're reaching some sort of goal. And a lot of times that's not even really about you. It's about, to get some other thing. So the reason why I created Soul Word was it was kind of like when, pick a word of the year was like a big thing. And I was like, oh, I love that. But I don't want to just pick the bright and shiny word. Like if you're going to live one word for a full year, it better come from soul.
Yeah.
So cultivating Soul Word was like really getting gritty on like the really deep questions to ask yourself, like not just like what do you want in life, but how do you want to feel in your life? How do you want to feel when you get that thing that you want? That is the most important thing, is that we focus on how we want to feel. And finding a soul word is kind of just like this process that I've like curated for 10 years. It's
Love
just
it.
a series of questions. I really geek out on doing like all the studies of all of the supportive energies for the year ahead. For example, this year, it is a 1 year in numerology, which represents brand new, fresh starts. We are literally standing at a whole new threshold for humanity. It's a blank slate. And like, anything can happen and probably will. So we take in the numerology of the year, the feng shui of the year, which is always kind of, well, it's the year of the horse. The element of the year is fire. So it's fire horse. And then, oh gosh, there's so many. I love Pantone, going with Pantone color of the year because they do so much research. Man, they caught a lot of slack for their cloud dancer this year, which I love it. I think it's
I saw a few memes. I didn't really care.
it's in total alignment with everything else. It's a 1 year. It's a fresh beginning. So the color is like an off-white kind of
Okay.
thing.
So it's like a
So
blank.
I take all these textures and then I create a certain amount of journal props in each category to help people get really reflective on their life. We're not talking about the past anymore. We're talking about where we're going. How do you want to feel about where you are going? And through lots of meditation, a lot of journaling, people arrive on a word that's growing them forward. So it's always so amazing when I teach this class, because I teach it to my membership community, which is the portal, and then I teach it to the public as well. And I teach it so many times. So now I go into corporate America and I do a lot of things with corporate companies. So I'll bring it in. It's a fun thing for corporate teams to find their words, but it's so deep. And it's like every time you remember this word, make it your password, do all the things to make sure that it's interfaced in your life, but you have no idea where that word is going to take you. You just know you have a feeling in mind. And it blows my mind year after year, the transformations that happen with people when they've got some sense of direction. And that map is coming from soul. It's like, wow. Usually their stories are mind-blowing. I mean, mind-blowing. I remember 1 year I had a woman that had the words fly. And it was like, okay, she wants to fly. She was going through a lot of life changes, divorce and, career and things like that. And she's like, I just want to fly. I just want to, I don't know why my soul just keeps saying that word fly, but I'm going to go with it. I don't know what it means. A lot of times people don't know really. You don't know because you're starting the relationship with that word. So how could you know? By the end of the year, she found herself divorced, brand new job. And in this job, she was flying back and forth from London to home and London and back, and ended up falling in love. And that changed her whole life. And then they were flying and then her heart was flying. So the word just like took on something that we could have never, ever, ever imagined. For example, there's a girl this year, her word was love. And she said in like, I just want to be love. I want to find love. I want to blah, blah, blah. What the transformation of love did to her is so profound. She started with loving herself and decided to get up early in the morning. She kept hearing people talk about a morning practice. She wasn't a morning person. She's like, I'm going to start there. So she started loving herself enough to get up 15 minutes earlier to have her cup of coffee, have a little meditation. And then it started to you know what? I'm going to join this program. I'm going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. And she was like, here's this never been a morning person all of a sudden. So then she starts working out, lifting weights. She's incredible. She doesn't even look like the same person. Then she's like, I'm going to find, I want to take this self-love that I have and I want to share it with someone. I want to find love. Turns out she falls in love with a man that is dying. He has cancer.
Oh my God.
And he says to her, I don't want to hurt you, but I'm at the end of the road. There is no hope for me. There's no cure for me, but I want to be able to love you no matter how many days we have left together. Can you handle that? And so this is coming up on the very end of the year. And I'm not sure if he's passed yet, maybe so. But she said, I had no idea that love, this journey of love would bring me to this point where now I am taught to just love recklessly, abandon, just let love go. You'll never regret loving, no matter if you have one day with love or you have a lifetime with love. You just got to love, period. I'm like, what? It was there wasn't a dry eye in the room.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It was so profound. And I'm so proud of her. Like I could go on and on and on with the stories, but when you choose a word from soul, it's driving you, it's growing you into, your soul knows what you need to experience. That's why it's in your body. Let it lead, Don't pick the bright and shiny words, where you're like, glitter, sparkle. It's like, yeah. And how do you want to feel when you're sparkling? Like
Right.
Find the word to that.
Right.
But it's such a fun project. It's grown. It blows my mind year after year. It's never the same. It's pretty amazing. My word of the year last year was utopia. Yeah. Utopia. Very weird word. Never thought about it. Kept showing up for me. I'm like, okay, I'll figure this out. But boy, did it teach me a lot. Taught me a lot about, the utopia is what I cultivated and created for myself, creating a beautiful life and like that utopia, whatever that feels like for you. That's the kind of where I ended up coming back to at the end of the year. So the lessons can be long. The lessons can be hard with a soul word. Not everything is a cakewalk in life. But when we listen to soul, we are rewarded with more connection and depth that is just mind blowing. And isn't that what we want on your deathbed? Are you going to be sitting there talking about your 401k? Are you going to be talking about, no, you're going to be talking about the moments that, really, really brought you to your knees and showed you love and life. And like, these are the things that matter. This is what life is all about. And that's my whole intention with the Soul Word program, is to just help people live a more soul-based lifestyle, period. Because the world will be a better place if we're all just living. No two souls are the same, by the way, too. How cool and unique is that?
Right. Yeah.
8 billion people on the planet, everybody's got their own soul. That's pretty darn colorful.
Yeah. I think if you really considered that more, how interesting. Again, hence the name of my podcast. I want people to just think about these things and go like, and have a different experience with their life and those around them because they thought about things a little differently.
Right.
It's not always that easy to create a different mindset, but you can go out and seek it even if you don't know how to give it to yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's not gonna come up for you right away. It will after practice and study and devotion. Initially, if you just know that you want to look at things differently, but you're not quite sure what that means, there are an abundance of teachers and resources and
oh gosh, yeah,
connecting with somebody like you. And how do people connect with your portal, if you want to tell them about that?
So, you can register for the portal on my website. It's besoulspace.com. So you can go on there and there's all kinds of information and testimonials on my website. You can also find out I have a digital Reiki training course that I cultivated that I'm really, really, really excited about. I always do in-person trainings, and yes, being live in person is the best experience possible. But I feel like Reiki is such a powerful tool and needs to be out there in the world and accessible to everybody. It's a practice that you learn. So that course is on there. Private sessions with me, just about everything is on the BeSoul space. .com platform, but you can also catch me at Sally Soul Space on Instagram, BeSoul Studio on Instagram. I'm out there. I'm out and about, people. Come find me.
I'll put links all of them there. Yeah. Yeah. This has been so magical. I am truly marveling at you. I don't even really have good articulate words for it. Your wisdom and heart and energy. We haven't had a chance to like connect like this in quite some time. And just wow, you just are so incredible and have just bloomed. I mean, every time I see you, I'm always like, wow. And you're just blossoming more and more. And it's just so incredibly uplifting to hear, especially how everything that I know of us being in each other's lives, how it all has come together in this way that, paints a more whole picture, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
our friends after a little bit, you're like, oh, look at you, and I'm like, wow, everything, you're just doing really, really incredible work. You are an actual light being on this earth, like you always have been. And I'm just watching you become that more and more. And it's quite a blessing and an honor.
I can say the same to you, my friend.
Thank you.
The
Thank
same.
you.
I love your soul.
I love your soul. I love your soul. All right, guys. And I'm just sitting here like, yes, wow, yes, wow, yes, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And make more soul friends, people. Please, listening to this, have conversations like this. Get weird. Make soulful connections, because when you have soulful connections with people, they become your soul family. And soul family is a family that lives without expectations. We don't need anything from each other. We can not talk for months and we pick right back up where we've been. When you know somebody's soul, you know them.
Yes. Yes. And especially if you're somebody like us. And I think even when we became friends, I think I told you, I was like, listen, I had a hard time with friendships because I knew that I would dip out, and not on purpose, I have a lot of feelings and things, and I was not well and health-wise and bad relationship. I just knew that I would sometimes be present and sometimes not.
Right.
And partly it was due to that. And then partly that's just kind of, I'm very available when I'm with somebody. And then I go and retreat into my little Cancerian space and do recharge,
Yes.
And I used to disappoint a lot of friends. And I remember I told you that. And I was like,
Best piece of advice you ever gave me. I use it all the time. You want me to tell it?
Yeah.
We're sitting in Starbucks and I don't even know what we were discussing at the time, but I think I was talking about like people being clingy. So sometimes when you work in personal development work, people can put you on a pedestal,
Mm.
And it's very awkward and it's very uncomfortable. And you said to me, don't put me on a pedestal because I will let you down.
Mm-hmm.
If you put me on that pedestal, that's your responsibility, not mine. I will fall off of that pedestal. I'm human. So if, that was like, I use that all the time with people. Don't put me on that pedestal. I will let you down, because I'm doing this work for you, but I'm Sally,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important that like when you have soul friends and soul family, it is important to let yourselves just be travelers in the universe. And like there's never any like, you didn't call or I haven't seen you, you are just ecstatic to see that soul. You are ecstatic to see them doing everything that they ever want. You want everything for them.
Yes.
And when you have those kind of relationships, it took me a while to figure that was like something that I really, really value. But those are the only kind of relationships that I really try to nurture and cultivate now because I need that just as much as they need that. And when we have that mutual kind of understanding of like, I see you, go get it. I'm with you. Even if we're not like with each other on whatever, I'm with you. I'm always with you. And I'm always on. And I think especially for women, I mean, I grew up in all girls Catholic school, which was an experience. And I didn't realize that positive female friendships were not only but they are absolutely essential. And it was really Jackie at the Prawn House. She cultivated such a beautiful women's circle. And I was like, oh, this is great. And then ever since then, I've continued to try to do the same thing, moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thank you so much for being on here anytime
Look, it got dark out. Can you see how look at
I
me
know.
here?
I see the dark now from when we started, and it's bright. It looks like the studio lit, and then I know. Literally anytime you want to come back and share whatever's in your heart, you are always welcome.
I'd love to. I love having these soul talks with you.